when it comes to being in the LGBT community, I feel like a lot of us have a story behind the lifestyle. And the most common one is being sexually molested. I had two incidents as a kid growing up by two family members. Don't really want to go into detail about it. The first time I was about maybe 5, 6. The second time was an attempt, but I got away. At that age, I never came out and told anybody. And I think that's where I caused the most damage. I grew up confused a lot, frustrated, aggravated. And it's like the older I got, in my mind it's like, okay, I'm supposed to like boys and I'm supposed to, date guys. But it got to the point I found myself looking at females a lot. As a kid, I was kind of actually terrified of being around men alone. It was so bad to the point I was uncomfortable being around my own father. And I knew, this man would never do nothing to hurt me. But, as a kid, that's all you know is fear. As I got older, I tried dating guys, and it just made me so uncomfortable. Growing up as a teen, the only thing on their mind is sex, and it was just something I was not down for. Until one day I reached my breaking point. I felt like I was suffocating. Like literally, I got tired of hiding. It was times where, my mom would ask me, "Was I gay?" And I was like, no, like, why you asking me that? You tripping. And she was like, boys don't call the house anymore. It's always girls. And, my appearance was changing from my clothes to my hair. I began to feel uncomfortable in dresses. I didn't like curling my hair. I started wearing braids, and I just started doing the whole 360. And by the time I hit 16, I had reached my breaking point. I ended up going to church one Sunday, and we had just got a new pastor by the name of Reverend Feaster. And she was preaching about how you got to go through the storms and go through the bad in order to receive the good. And I was just sitting there crying and crying and crying. My cousin Jean was sitting beside me. And, I had already came out to her or whatever. But I was just sitting there rocking back and forth. So when the pastor got to the part of, coming to the altar, giving your life to God, my cousin, she was rubbing my back and she was like, "You want to go up there?" And I just remember shaking my head, yeah. So I went to the altar, and Reverend Feaster prayed over me. And, I basically ended up giving my life to God. And I can honestly say, when I walked away from that altar, I felt like everything had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt like I was at peace with myself. So, after that, I was like, well, time to tell the family, I remember catching my mom one afternoon, and I was like, Mom, I need to talk to you. She was like, what's up? I just came outside, I was like, I'm gay. And she said, I already knew it. And I'm like, what? She was like, I already knew it. I was just waiting on you to tell me. And she was proceeded to say, well, I actually think you was born that way and this and that third. And I was like, I don't think so. So I ended up coming out and telling her what happened to me. I only told her about the first incident. And at the time, this man was still alive. And I was just remember my mom running out the house, screaming and crying. Like, how could you do this to my child? And, but I don't even want to get into details with that. But, my mom was very accepting of it. Besides, the times where she would have, her drunken moments. And she would always, kind of bash me saying, I ain't gonna never have grandkids. why you want to be a man. You want to be a man, you know what I'm saying? So I dealt with that for about a good year. Me and my pops never really had the conversation. He didn't like it at first. I remember bringing a chick home one time from college, and my pops didn't even speak to me for like that whole week, which it crushed my feelings. But you know, we got a good relationship, good understanding. You know, my rest of my family members are very accepting of it. My sister said she had already knew. You know, my mom, my aunt, which I call her my mom, who raised me. You know, she sat me down and said, you know, I didn't raise you, you know, to live that life. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you got to answer to God, and I still love you regardless, and that ain't going to change. So, you know, I can honestly say my family is very supportive of my decision. Well, until now, they never knew the reason why, but it is what it is. But backtracking to telling my friends, that was another whole school. I got teased and bullied a lot, so I didn't really felt like I didn't fit in with people, you know. By the time I hit 8th grade, I ended up meeting Kendra, TK, you know, Monique, Chawanda. I ended up meeting a bunch of girls, and they was very cool, had sleepovers, we hung out, all that stuff. So when I made the decision to come out, the first thing into my mind, I'm like, they gonna stop talking to me. They ain't gonna want to be my friend, because, you know, I actually did have one girl that I was very cool with. She ended up moving back out of South Carolina, and so we would call each other and stuff. And, you know, I was excited to tell her, like, you know, because I felt like I had accepted me. And when I proceeded to tell her, you know, that I was gay, she, you know, would dodge my phone calls or if, you know, her sister answered the phone, she would have her tell me something, or she would answer like, oh, I'm on the phone with my boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? She was just brushing me off. So it just got to the point where I just stopped calling. You know, I just left her alone. But when it came down to Kendra, no, you know, I remember calling them on three-way. I had her and TK, matter of fact. And I was like, well, I need to tell y'all something. And they was like, you know, what's up, what's going on? I was like, I'm gay. And it was like, okay, so we don't care. Like, you still like a big sister to us. We still love you regardless. So, you know, after going through that, I just felt like the weight had truly been lifted. By the time I got back in school, I think it was like my sophomore or either my junior year, you know, I had to deal with some girls, you know, slandering me, you know, calling me all kind of gays and dykes and stuff like that, to the point I had to really, you know, talk to the school about it, but it was squashed. But other than that, you know, wasn't nothing really bad about it. I, you know, started having relationships with females and all that crazy stuff. 2017 is when I really started battling. I felt like I was suffocating in a closet all over again. You know, growing up, like I said, as a kid, you know, it was a fear when it came to men. And as I got older into adulthood, it became more of an uncomfortable feeling. Coming up, you know, for a man to approach a masculine gay female, which is known as stud in the LGBTQ community, you know, they look at it as a competition, as oh, I'm going to get her, you know, I can change her mind. Like, that's their mindset. And in the beginning, I would laugh it off, you know, and, you know, joke with them, but it really got to a point of being uncomfortable, especially when, you know, sexual remarks are made. And, you know, it's times where, you know, I've been targeted on social media. And, you know, to look and see people laugh about it and think it's a joke, like, you know, if they only knew, you know, what the hell I'm dealing with, you know. And, you know, you can tell when, you know, a man is trying to be, or any person is trying to be nice, or if they're like really flirting. And 99% of the time, I'm always right when it's just going too far. You know, to the point I've had to report men on my jobs for, you know, sexual harassment. And it just got to the point where I just really started hating being a female. It didn't take until I lost my best friend. I watched my best friend lay in the casket at 31 years old, man, and I can honestly say that scene broke me. My world shattered. I know people die at different ages. People died younger than that. But to lose a best friend in that same age range as you, it took everything out of me, man. I was suffocating. And at that moment, I knew I was not living. By the time that thought came to mind, I thought, once again, here I am. I felt like I was suffocating. I felt like, why am I having these thoughts? And not even really thinking. I just started looking up doctors to see who could actually perform what we call in the LGBT community top surgery, which is for removal of the breast. And at that time, I once again took myself back to trying to please other people and not wanting to be judged, whatever. So I was like, well, maybe if I just get a reduction, maybe that'll help, chill my anxiety, when it comes to this gender thing. And so, but in the back of my mind, I knew it's not gonna make me happy. I knew what I wanted. So I started looking online for, surgeons, and I came across one here in Columbia, and the overall visit was horrible. When we sat down and talked, and I was like, well, actually, instead of a reduction, I actually want a full removal. So he gave me this funny look like, so why would you want to do that? Or do you have cancer? I was like, no. He's like, are you transitioning? At the time, it was a no, because I didn't really know. I just jumped into it. And I was like, no. And he was like, well, I could do a reduction, but I don't think that's going to satisfy you, and then it's going to leave scarring and blah, blah, blah. Just a whole bunch of excuses, to the point, I guess he could saw the look on my face. I was fed up with, the conversation. So like, well, I'll just refer you to, a colleague, I won't even charge you for the consultation, whatever. So I left that visit just frustrated all over again, and I just said the hell with it. Maybe if I just change my bras, maybe I won't attract men as much, and, something. And so I went through that whole scenario, just still not happy, still having anxiety attacks, to the point, I was having suicidal thoughts. And I was like, yo, like, something got to give. I can't keep living like this. Like, I can't. So I actually ended up going back to see my doctor to get back on my meds for anxiety. After that visit, I was still having my grieving moments, still battling my identity, to the point I was popping the pill like every day. And I was like, I can't keep relying on a bottle of drugs to soothe me. Like, something gotta give. And so that's when the thought came to mind to look into my insurance, my health insurance. So I reached out to the company and actually chatted with someone, and I was like, do you guys fund top surgery? And the guy was like, yeah, I'll send you the link, you can read over it. So they sent over a link, and what they have in my insurance is what they call gender reassignment. They pay everything from, if you're doing FTM, which is female to male, they pay for top surgery, full hysterectomy, I think as far as bottom surgery, same as, MTF, which is male to female, to paying for breast and bottom surgery. But I looked into it, and the requirements for top surgery was to get approval through a therapist. And then it came to mind. I was like, you know what? It wouldn't be bad for me to sit down with a therapist. I need one. So I reached back out to my doctor, and I was like, can you guys, put me into therapy, because actually my insurance covers that too. So they referred me to a lady. Come to find out, the lady didn't accept my insurance, so I had to call back, and I was like, yo, this lady don't accept my insurance, so can y'all, pinpoint me to somebody else? That's what they put me into, Palmetto Counseling Associates, which I got assigned to Lorraine Jenkins. And when I say she is truly my angel on earth, my first session, she made me feel welcome. She made me feel comfortable. So she asked, well, why was I there? And I was like, I deal with anxiety real bad. And so she said, well, what causes it? I said, for one, I lost my best friend over 1.5 years ago. And she's like, well, with that, you're still grieving. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, you're still in grieving state. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, another issue. And when this actually rolled off my tongue, I felt I had already accepted me for me. And so I proceed to say, I'm not happy as a female. And the first question she asked was, have you ever thought about transitioning? And without any hesitation, I said yes. So after going through a couple sessions, she said and said, well, you know what, I'm not finna sit here and make you see me for 6 months to a year. Clearly you've made up in your mind this is what you want. And she also proceeded to say, you have to do what's going to make you happy. You can't live to please everybody else. You have to do what's going to make you happy. And that's been my motto. That has been my motto pretty much since I lost Sean. Because at 31, Sean didn't even get to live out all the things she talked about. And it just made me realize how short life can be. So long story short, got my approval through my therapist, looked into some surgeons. Actually, I had to go out of state, because after the first surgeon, I just didn't trust Columbia. So I actually found one. He had great reviews. He's done this procedure over 100 times. My surgeon is Brian out of Atlanta, Georgia. Set for top surgery June 10th at 7:30 at Decatur Hospital. And after surgery, with the state of South Carolina, if I want to change my gender mark, I can. The thing with transitioning, I haven't really decided if I want to do hormonal therapy. Hormonal therapy for female to male is testosterone injections. One side effect I'm not cool with is facial hair. I don't care for facial hair, so I haven't really decided if I want to do hormonal therapy or not. Of course, the best friend, which is Kendra, is like, oh, you don't need it. Which a couple of them saying I don't need this. But other than that, just ready to have my surgery done. At the end of the day, I already know it's going to be negative comments. It's going to be negative thoughts. And I am proud to say right here on camera for the world to see, I don't give a fuck. My motto is simply this, and this is how I want to end this video. If you're not putting harm to yourself or hurting other people, live your fucking life. It's too short. You cannot please the world. Live your truth. Live your life. Do what makes you happy. And I promise you, that's a feeling that you will never regret. I am Aiko Finesse.